Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar, The Culture Effect on Employee Satisfaction and Productivity. We're so glad you could join us today. We have some great speakers, and we just couldn't be more excited that you're giving us some time in your afternoon to join our webinar. So just to kick things off, we have a couple webinar tips. You can connect to audio using your computer's microphone and speakers, or dial in. Just make sure you do one or the other so you can hear all our great content. You will be muted just to avoid some of that background noise, but we do want to keep this highly interactive. So feel free to enter any questions at any time in the question pane, and we'll go ahead and take those at the end. I want to introduce our speakers today. We have Lauren Wright, Director of Glassdoor EMEA, as well as Martin Bennett from HomeServe, and he is the CEO there, and we're just so excited to have both of them joining us today. As always, like I said, we want to keep things as interactive as possible, so feel free to use our hashtag Glassdoor or tweet at us at Glassdoor UK. All right, and quickly, I'm going to run through the agenda and then pass things on over to Lauren. So we're really here today to talk about, do satisfied employees ultimately equal satisfied customers? And we're going to talk about ways that satisfied employees have proven to be more productive employees, which then in turn leads to satisfied customers. And we're going to wrap things up with almost a case study spotlight on HomeServe. And they're going to talk a little bit about, why culture is so important to their company and some of the cool things they've been doing. And lastly, hand it on over for some Q&A. So with that, I would like to go ahead and pass things on over to Lauren Wright.
Hello, and thank you for the kind introduction. I'm really excited about this webinar as well. It's one of my favorite topics is culture, and it's a really important one. So first, for a little bit of background on Glassdoor and how we work. Our mission is really simple. It's to help people everywhere find jobs and companies they love. We launched Glassdoor 8 years ago with a goal to increase transparency around jobs and employment. And before Glassdoor, the only way to really get a gut check around whether a company might be a good fit, you had to know somebody on the inside. You really had to know someone there to actually understand the organization. So a look at the numbers. Glassdoor has grown over those 8 years. We now have over 30 million unique users that come to Glassdoor and research. Every month they see about 12 million pieces of content. So there's all sorts of data across 540,000 different companies in 190 countries. And about 50% of our users actually come and use the site on mobile devices. So let's tackle the big question. Do satisfied employees equal satisfied customers? And from there, do satisfied employees actually make more productive employees? That's, I think, the first question we really need to answer is, are satisfied employees actually doing better work? Well, employers are starting to realize the ROI behind engaged employees. According to the Workplace Research Foundation, highly engaged employees are 38% more likely to have above average productivity. And this engagement tends to have a ripple effect on your organization. Boosting employee satisfaction is well worth the investment. So according to a recent study, we looked at Glassdoor actually, we looked at reviews left by 221,000 users who had contributed both a review and a salary report. And we were trying to answer the question, does money buy work happiness? And what factors most into overall satisfaction? So what we found from this survey is that salary does have a statistically significant impact on job satisfaction, but it's actually really small. A 10% boost in salary leads to a 1 unit increase in satisfaction on a 0 to 100 scale. So in other words, if an employee was making £70,000 per year and was given a raise to £77,000 per year, their satisfaction would move from a 78 to a 79. Which would be hard to detect on a Glassdoor 5-point star scale. So our data also showed another really interesting fact, that actually there's a diminishing return to happiness for every extra £1,000 in earnings. So where does rank pay rank compared to where does pay rank compare to other drivers? And even when we statistically control for other factors like gender, education, years of experience, job title, employer size, industry, state of employee status, salary just isn't at the top of the list. In fact, we know that salary is not the main driver. We look at things like culture and values, career opportunities, senior leadership. Those are really the most important drivers, and especially when you think about the youth in your organization, the so-called millennials that work in your organization, work-life balance, compensation and benefits, and business outlook are far less influential than actually having a really strong culture, great career opportunities, and having the right inspirational leadership in place. So why does striving to be a best place to work even matter? Well, listening to your workforce allows you as leaders to identify and hone in on problem areas in real time. But remember, it's not just your employees or candidates reading Glassdoor reviews. It's customers, partners, investors. They're deciding on investments or even M&A. So how satisfied your employees are is a leading indicator on how successful your company will be. And others know this too. This is why we're seeing Glassdoor data show up in sell-side research, financial models, and more. Company satisfaction is associated with better company financial performance and performance in the public markets. So actually, let's take a look at a study. And we sought to explore actually trends and correlations between company culture and stock performance of public companies. And this study was actually led by Chief Economist Andrew Chamberlain, who uncovered that best places to work companies, the list actually that we put out every year called Best Places to Work, you probably have heard of, it outperformed the S&P 500 by an average of 122%. I would put my money there. We also evaluated low-rated companies and determined they underperformed the index by nearly 30%. So why does employee satisfaction matter? Because satisfied employees build stronger, more successful companies. So we also looked at another study published by the Journal of Corporate Finance, which shows a causal link between employee satisfaction and company financial performance. The findings were really interesting. A 1-unit change in company rating on Glassdoor's scale of 1 to 5 has a 0.141 effect on the market value of companies. This translates to a 7.9% average jump in company market value from a 1-star increase in employee satisfaction. That is a huge economic effect. That is the culture effect. So I think we've proved the point that satisfied employees are certainly more productive. The next question becomes, so do those satisfied and productive employees then translate to satisfied customers? Well, I think we can turn to our friend Richard Branson and ask him about putting the employee first. And he'll tell you, put your staff first, your customers second, and shareholders third. And I think that's the right hierarchy. If we look at a recent study, we also see that 84% of highly engaged employees believe they can positively impact the quality of their organization's products, compared with only 31% of disengaged employees. It makes complete sense. If you're vested in what you're doing, you feel more compelled to do really great work. And increasing employee engagement also pays dividends. If you increase employee engagement investment by a mere 10%, you can increase your own profits by 1,850 pounds per employee per year. So a nominal investment can have a huge return on each employee. And there's more than one way to invest. You might say, well, I don't have the budget for that, even if it's small. And it's really not all about money. It's about recognition from supervisors. It's about clear communication. Really, a lot of this comes down to clear communication from leadership, especially about transparency in the workplace. ensuring that there's transparency around compensation, soliciting feedback. Are you asking your employees not for reviews, but are you asking them for feedback? Are you asking them to really understand if what you're communicating is actually and the intention of your communication is felt by your organization? And listen to feedback. And listening to feedback to learn. That's different than listening to feedback to be defensive. Finally, we see that 96% of job seekers say it's important to work for a company that embraces transparency. It's critical, especially for graduates today, to understand that an employer is transparent about their and dedicated to engaging employees and listening to their employees. When we look at retail organizations and employee engagement programs that they have within their organizations, we see that there is a very strong correlation with customer satisfaction, meaning that happy employees do indeed make happy customers. So a couple of key takeaways that you can ask yourself today. Number one, would current employees recommend your organization to a friend? 2, what are job seekers saying about you on social? Listen to feedback. And 3, what is your company rating on Glassdoor? Think about some of those correlations and effects. What is your company rating on Glassdoor? And what this really means is that, 1, happy and satisfied employees mean happy and satisfied customers. It has a direct impact on your bottom line. And employees are your brand. A company name is just a company, but it's really your employees internally that make up your organization. And finally, it pays to care. Caring actually has a huge effect on your P&L. So you certainly need to pay attention to employees and culture and ensure that that you're listening to your employees. So that gives us a good understanding of the framework, but we actually have a case study from a great organization called HomeServe on the culture effect. We're going to call it the HomeServe effect today, and why culture is so important to us. So I'm going to pass this over to Martin at this point.
Thanks, Lauren, and good afternoon, everyone. And thanks to Glassdoor for the opportunity this afternoon to share our story. And that's kind of my plan for the next sort of 20 minutes is literally just to tell you the story of HomeServe, and particularly our sort of story over the last 4 or 5 years. And specifically, as I go through, I'll try and pick out why culture has become so important to us, and really try and link those cultural things directly with our performance, as Lauren's just talked about. And I'll try and set out some examples of what we've actually done that have made the difference, because I think it's easy to talk about this sort of subject, but what is it that companies are actually doing that has the big effect? So I'll try and pull out some real examples as we go through. But maybe just a place to start, I'll talk about our business to start with. So our business is relatively young. As a business, we're just over 20 years old. So therefore, we feel quite entrepreneurial, and we feel very fast growing. And as a business, we started out as a joint venture with a utility business just in the UK. And today, we've actually demerged from that utility business. We're a PLC in our own right. We have a market cap of about £2 billion, and today we operate in the UK, the US, France, Spain, and Italy. So 5 countries. We've managed to grow to 7 million customers across those countries, and we have about 5,000 employees. And I guess to answer the question, what is it that we actually do? Well, we effectively sell peace of mind to customers around their home. So we are a business-to-consumer operation, and all we're doing is selling people peace of mind. So if something goes wrong in your home, it could be electric, gas, water, then we will go out and fix it. And in the UK, which is the business I'm responsible for, we have just over 2 million customers in the UK. And the brilliant thing about our business is we actually go out and visit about 1 million of them every year and fix something in their home. So we're very close to our customers. And maybe just a little bit of background on myself. I joined HomeServe just over 12 years ago. So I've been the UK CEO for about 2.5 years now. And by far, it's my most favourite job I've had in the last 12 years. Prior to that, I was the Group Chief Operating Officer and the Group Chief Finance Officer. And before that, I did various sort of finance roles. So as you can probably tell, I'm a trained accountant by trade. I was actually born and bred within about 10 miles of where we actually work in the UK now. And those qualifications as an accountant probably make me the least well qualified person to talk about culture, I suspect. But certainly our business and myself, and I'll pick out bits as I go through, it's certainly a journey. And I think learning about culture is something that just doesn't stop. And just because you might think today that culture is not big in the business that you're in, doesn't mean it can't become big. And just because today you might not think culture is naturally something you feel at ease with, I'd say that those are things that you can change. So if we move on from our business and move over to our journey on the next slide, I guess our journey's been really interesting, and this is why culture is so important to us. Culturally, we got it very wrong back in 2011, so just nearly 5 years ago now. And we really fell out of favour with our regulator to the point where actually we had to stop selling, and that's all we do. So one day we were selling things, the next day we weren't. And we are still the holder of a unrequired sort of award, which is we still have today the largest ever retail fine by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK. So this started back in 2011, and we eventually got fined in 2014, nearly £31 million. And I guess the thing that's really important about that is how did we end up in that position? And for me, the single biggest reason we ended up in that position, because we were a fast-growing business, you know, great market cap, great growth, everybody loved us, but how did we end up there? I think the reality was we ended up there because our focus had changed over the years, and particularly as a PLC, where you have to report results, our focus had shifted to profit and to customer numbers, how many customers have we got, and metrics, and we were very focused as an organisation as metrics. We then focused somewhat on our customers, which had originally been the key focus, and then thirdly on our list was our people. We did very little for our people, and they really weren't a key focus for us as we were growing and developing as a business. And that is really, you know, how we've managed to get 5 years ago into the big trouble that we're in. But I do maintain today that that fine and the position we got ourselves in, but that fine in particular, was the best thing that has ever happened to this business. And the main reason was that really gave us a crisis. And we really took about not wasting that crisis. And we were very lucky in that we could do things with our business that maybe for a business that's just going forward in a sort of a uniform, regular way, you may not feel you have the opportunity to do. But because of those problems, we absolutely could look at changing the dynamic within the business. That cultural journey we've on, certainly again, is not something we could have done easily without that real mishap back in 2011. So really important that we sort of set that as the start of our journey. And I took over this job back on the 1st of January 2014. So within 2 weeks of me getting the job, I got fined £31 million. So it was a tremendous start for the sort of my latest step in my career. But it all started at the same time, which was a great place to start. If we go to the next slide, really just to give you some context, I guess, before we get into the how have we actually done that, which has totally been led by culture. If we actually look at some of the results, and maybe I'll come back and answer it again at the end, but maybe just to give you a flavour now of what are some of the metrics that have been important for us. You can see on some of the graphs here, there's an independent customer survey that the UK CSI do every year. And we have gone from a real sort of laggard in this survey, and this is fully independent, to the most recent survey, we were the most improved business in the whole of the UK in terms of customer satisfaction. You know, not second, third or fourth, we were the most improved. Within our category, we're in the top 5 as, of customer satisfaction. And you can see on other metrics there, Trustpilot, you know, we have nearly 10,000 reviews on Trustpilot. We moved from sort of 2.3 out of 10 to today 8.5 out of 10, which by far and away is probably one of the things we're most proud of in our business, that customers, 10,000 of them will rate us that highly, and it is unheard of in our particular sort of trade and industry we're on. And then, interestingly, when you said, do you know what your Glassdoor score is? It is so that has been absolutely really important. And to go back to that quote, I didn't realise that it was Richard Branson who said that originally. One of the biggest things that me, my team and our business are absolutely focused on, and we say it time and time again, is people come first in our business, absolutely first. Customers come second, and we always say everything else will take care of itself. And I'll come back to that in terms of how that plays out in our business. So that's a bit of the background, and those are some of the scores that we can see actually evidence that, you know, satisfied people definitely lead to satisfied customers and good things. Now, over the page is probably the thing that we've started out at in terms of our HomeServe UK strategy. So this is on page 5 of the deck there. And looking back over the last 2.5 years, one of the things that we really set out at the start was to make sure that the business was really clear on its strategy. And this is something that we have shared many times over the last 2.5 years, but I think this has been fundamental to our success. And the main reasons are that every one of our nearly 3,000 employees would be able to tell you where we're going today. They know strategically where we're heading as a business, and we've tried to demystify it. We have our strategy on a page. We talk about it frequently, and I'll come on to say how we talk about it. But for us, from a cultural perspective, my people in this business are as passionate about this strategy as I am. They understand the direction we're going in as clearly as I do and my team does. And importantly, they really do understand their reason for being. You know, why are they important to this organisation? And importantly, where do they fit into this organisation? Because we've got many different types of people in our organisation. We have engineers out on the road, we have call centre staff, we have IT staff, we have the whole plethora of different types of roles, but they all need to understand where they fit into the big picture. So having that strategy has been absolutely fundamental for us to be able to keep that clear vision over the last 2.5, 3 years. And if we turn over to something a little bit more tangible, so we have 2 sets of promises in our business, and those 2 promises, if you're in any of our sites around the UK, you will see them pretty much over all of the walls. They are something everybody in our business would know about. We have what we call our customer promises and our people promises. And we actually launched these in the wrong way when we look back on it now, but because of the mess we were in back in 2011, we set out here, and this came out in 2012, we had our customer promises. And this set out really, really clearly, what are we promising to do for our customers? And back then, when we were right in the sort of the depths of our difficulties, being clear on what we were going to do for customers felt like the most important thing. So we did that first in 2012. But it wasn't until 2015 that we set out what our people values and our people promises were. And if I had the time again to go back and do this, I would have done it the other way around, coming back to people come first, customers second. We did it the wrong way around, but we've been okay as we've gone along because we did get there eventually. And these people promises were stuff that our 2,500 people around the business said they felt were important. They decided what these values were, and we agreed as a whole business that these things were really, really important to us. But the most important thing of these two slides is how have we brought these to life. So I'm going to just try and give you some of the real examples today of how we've brought these things to life, the strategy and the promises that have meant our culture has changed. So if we turn over, and this is something that the business is as passionate about now as it was when we set this up, we have something within our business that we call customer first. This is a way that we really bring to life for every one of the members of our staff that customers are really, really important. And how it works is if you're anywhere in our business and any day of the week you see something that isn't right for customers, we've got a number of channels where you can just tell the business what's wrong. And it might be that you're out on the front line and you see a customer that we haven't done a very good job before. You might be internally and you think the processes aren't right or the systems are right. But wherever that sort of computer says no for customers, you can email in, you can send stuff across Yammer, you can leave messages. And what happens is every morning, without fail, and this has been going on for best side of 3 years now, a group of our people go through every one of those submissions, anywhere between 20 and 40 a day, and they are empowered to sort out for our customers a solution. We have hundreds and hundreds of these, and there's a couple of examples on there. And we are very lucky because we're so directly in contact with our customers. We get some absolutely beautiful examples of where, particularly our engineers on the front line, see situations with our customers that they passionately want to do something about. And there's an example there, a guy called Andrew Long, who is one of our engineers, and he was out with a customer, and this customer who's got dementia kept calling us out to fix what she thought was a gas leak. But there was absolutely nothing wrong with the gas. But our engineers, could tell that there was something seriously wrong here. So they took the time to go and find and talk to the customer's son, Mrs. Parsons' son, understand what was going on. And what we subsequently did was just fit a gas detector. So we knew when this customer would call back in again saying she'd got a gas leak, that on our systems, that we knew that she'd got dementia, and we could just say to her, look, go and have a look at your gas leak detector and see if you have or you haven't. And we've really been able to help this customer. And we have hundreds and hundreds of stories like this. But culturally, our people are driving this. There are broadly no management involved in this at all. It happens every day. 50% of our staff have put something forward to customer first. 6,500 queries. We've helped 1,600 customers, and we have spent £250,000, which may feel like a lot of money. I can tell you we have had, I don't know how many times more value back on that, because actually what we've fixed along the way is processes and systems and stopped doing things that are really wrong for customers. And the payback on this is just immense. But most of all, for our people in our business, culturally, they know what is right to do for our customers. So that's what we talk about when we talk about customers and putting customer first and establishing a hardship fund, and all those things are really driving cultural behaviour in this business. So I'd pick that as the first example. The next example I will bring, and just over the slide there, we talk about big communications. And if your people are really going to come first, throughout the business, you need to communicate in many, many different ways. And what I've learned over the last 2.5 years in this role is that you cannot do enough communications. I know it's easily said, but it's the way in which you communicate, the channels in which you communicate, and how consistent your communication message is. So I'll give you a few examples of what we do. So we have things called cascades. So twice a year, and we get every single one of our employees together. That's nearly 3,000 people across the UK, and we get them all together. We take them off the road, we take them out the offices, and we're right in the middle of our cascade season at the moment. And as I'm looking out the window now for you, they're actually just erecting the marquee on our site here in Warsaw, ready to do the last set of cascades. And we do 21 of these things. It's the same message. It's in the same format. Every one of my management team are there, and every single one of our employees gets the same message in a consistent way. And that's one way in which we can communicate. The other thing we do, and I do it around the business, I have something called big conversations, and these are with teams of 10 to maybe 15 people. And I just sit down probably 2-3 times a month, just with bunches of our people, and just ask them how good a job we're doing for them. And it's amazing what you learn. Other things we do, and I stole the next one from Google, we have something called our Big Red Sofa. So every other Friday, myself and a guest will get interviewed on our Big Red Sofa, and that will get broadcast live to all of our people. You can watch it on playback, you can download it, and it's just another medium of getting consistent messages out there. And probably the last thing I'd talk about on big communication is something called Yammer. Many of you will have heard of Yammer. So it's our internal Facebook, for a better name. And I wasn't a big Facebook fan or user when we set this up, and I was a bit skeptical, if I was honest. But today, I'd say somewhere between 80 and 90% of all of our people are regularly on Yammer. We have some tremendous conversations, debates, disagreements on Yammer. We have hundreds of people posting, all voluntary. Nobody has to post anything on this, and I know other businesses who have never got it off the ground. But it is the best communication device that all of your people who are socially active like that can listen to what's going on in the business and can be involved in it and can comment on it. And this thing has really just sprung a life of its own, and that's cultural. You know, cultural that people will put stuff on there and people around the business will go and answer it. It's self-regulating. We've only ever taken 2 posts down, and with hindsight, we wish we hadn't have taken those 2 posts down, because people just self-regulate the whole stuff. People answer the questions themselves these days. So getting that big communication right is culturally one of the things that sets out what we do as a business. And it's around that stuff we talk about being transparent and open. There is nothing that can't be said. So that's big communication. I guess the next slide is kind of 2 things for us. It's, you know, people talk about engagement surveys. We do an engagement survey every 6 months. We do a full one every 12 months and a pulse one every 6 months. And the main thing is we do listen. And to the point you made, Lauren, about do you need to spend lots of money to drive forward engagement? Well, I think you can, but I would say the most powerful things we have been doing on engagement don't cost that much money. And the biggest one without a doubt is just listening in the first place. Actually really listening to what your people are telling you, the things that are important to them, particularly around career progression. We hear many, many times about how important career progression is. They tell you how important great leadership is, where it's working, where it's not, and they'll tell you what bits of work-life balance don't work. And the verbatim feedback that you get in these things is really, really important. And coming back to, and you can see our scores there, and those are the ones we're proudest of. You know, I care about the future of HomeServe, 95%. You know, I'm proud of the work I do, 94%. Gives you a flavour to the things culturally that are right within the business today. So, you know, that engagement work that we do and how often we do it is really, really important. And the most important thing is we've taken those people promises that we wrote down, those people promises that we set out, and today people know if you're going to get evaluated and rewarded and recognised in this business, that's how you get evaluated against one of those promises. And we're about to do our PDRs for a half year. Everybody's PDR talks about have you lived the values. And our whole recognition system is based around, you don't get recognised in our business at all, and we've completely changed it. You don't get recognised at all unless you meet one of those characteristics. So finally, the final thing I'll talk about is just what we do in our communities. And this is something, again, all of our people, they're all part of the community. They all want to get involved in the community. And importantly, they want us as an employer to support them in the community. And we've done many things. And again, some of these things cost a bit of money. Some of these things are pretty much free. But we've given individuals, through something we called HomeServe, the chance to do things within their community and get a bit of community support to enable them to do it. We have teams that are working together in the community and doing things together as small teams. And then we have some what we call BuildServe, which are some big projects where we take big bunches of people. It might be a whole site. We might take the Nottingham site, choose something locally, and they really get involved in it. And they, again, are things that culturally make it easy for our employees to want to be part of our business and to feel a part of our business while being part of their local community. So again, that would be the final sort of big example I'll give you of where you can make a big difference to the culture within a business. So I guess returning finally to the question you posed, Lauren, does it make a difference and how do we know that it's working? On the slide here, you can see, I guess from an external perspective, we're very lucky and we've been recognised for the things we've done. We've been recognised from some of our community stuff by our local big paper, the Express and Star, the Institute of Customer Service that I've spoken about, online, something like Moneyfacts recognises our products. We're very proud of our Best Year Out UK Employer stuff that we've got, the Glassdoor rating, HR excellence, and the insurance industry. All recognition which tells us we're doing the right thing. But I guess when it comes down to pound notes, the two graphs that I've stuck on there last are where our pound notes come from in our business. They come from the amount of new customers we get coming into our business, first and foremost. So if we've got lots of customers, that's great news for us, and that chart's going in the right direction. And then probably the most single important metric in our business is once we have a customer, how long do they stay with us for? Do they like what we do, and do they like how our people do it for them, which is our retention rate. And we have seen a real step up in our retention rate, which looks relatively small on here, but that for us in our industry is massive. So we can absolutely see that getting the culture right, which is about putting our people first, has really, really driven what we're doing as a business. You know, you can look at our Glassdoor reviews. We are really lucky in that we are a very unique place to work. And the longer we can keep that going and focus on it, I think those graphs will continue to go in the right direction. So that was all I was going to say, and I'll hand it back to Lauren.
Great. Thank you so much, Martin. That was amazing content, and it's really, refreshing to hear you kind of kick off your content with some things that went wrong and how you overcame them. So, it's no surprise that you were on our list of top CEOs in the UK by Glassdoor. So we're so excited to have you. We do have a couple questions here, and I'll kick this one off maybe by asking Lauren the question first and then pass it to you, Martin, to answer the same question. But the question is really, how do employers measure engagement just beyond, the stars on Glassdoor and by reading reviews? How do you actually measure engagement?
Yeah, well, I think Martin gave us a really good overview, obviously, of his own internal engagement survey, but with specifically to Glassdoor, there's a lot behind the star rating. So when an employee comes to Glassdoor to leave a rating, they actually rate the employer in a number of different categories on work-life balance and compensation, whether, of course, they approve or disapprove of the CEO. They also rate the business outlook. So there are a lot of different data points that we collect during that review process, whether it's around the employee experience or the interview experience. And then from there, we also know all sorts of different data points about them, for example, what their job title is or where they're located. So an employer can perhaps understand whether work-life balance is actually a problem in a specific location or in a specific department. And that's how they dynamically, because remember, reviews are not taken at one moment in time. They're taken over a period of time, and I think that sort of changes the way things look than versus an annual survey. So that's how a lot of employers use the engagement component of Glassdoor to help drive change within their organizations, manage change, and also help the C-suite understand through some reporting and analytics really what's going on. I'm sure Martin can share some more on his specific engagement strategies as well, so I'll pass the question along to him.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right in terms of, I think external bodies such as Glassdoor give you a great example, and because it's so independent and so immediate, we were very fortunate and we could see we were number 3 for work-life balance. But most importantly, you can understand why by looking at the external sort of feedback. But the internal bit, to add to what you said, in terms of the internal piece, so we have an external company come in and do an independent proper engagement survey, and there are many, many questions, of which I think it's 12 or 14 are the engagement questions, but they do, and our staff are all encouraged to take part in that. I think we have about 86% of our staff completed the online engagement survey, which is many, many questions, and then we get the results from it. So that is an exercise that many organisations can do for you. I think we use somebody called OCC or somebody like that, I think it's called, and they effectively run it all for you, all independently, all anonymously, and you can find out everything you ever wanted to know about what your people think.
Great, thank you so much. This question is for Lauren. My company doesn't have a great rating on Glassdoor, but we haven't really started to manage it. Where is the best place to start?
That is a good question, and Martin probably can attest to the fact that just because you don't have a great rating, it doesn't mean it's time to panic. There are things that you can do to really improve your culture, and also to get more, I think, employees to be your advocates. It could be, you haven't asked for feedback, so they're not, giving you feedback on Glassdoor. And in fact, a really great way to get started and engaged on Glassdoor is to actually just start with a free employer account. There's an account through which you can, update basic company information as well as respond to reviews. I think employee engagement actually starts with the employer, and I think our webinar today showed this is true with HomeServe. The employer engagement shows that you're listening and care. So then your employees will be compelled to give you feedback, and that
Thanks, Lauren. Go ahead, Martin.
Just to add to that, I would say that our rating has not always been good, but if you're actually thinking about your rating, it's probably the most important step to take, because I'll still talk to companies that don't even know what Glassdoor is. Yet I'll talk to every new starter who starts with us as a business, and I'll always ask them, did you go and look at Glassdoor? And not one of them will ever say no. So just actually knowing that it's important is the most important place to start.
Kind of following up to that question, Martin, this one's for you. How can I, as someone in the HR department, go to get that buy-in from our CEO and executive team to look at, solutions that invest in your employer brand and your recruitment efforts, such as Glassdoor? How do they approach you?
I think that's a difficult one, really, because I think if you're in HR, and this is why I think HR always have a hard job to do, I think unless the senior management team really get it, it is a tough job for you within HR to be able to get that message out there. And I think the best things that you can do are really try and choose some of those examples where you can show that businesses have done certain things, and it can really be demonstrated that they have a positive result. So I think many of the charts that Lauren went through at the start, which really, link so clearly how a business is rated to to how it might perform in terms of its people are really important. And people often start with customer satisfaction and say, well, look, all these people have really great customer satisfaction reviews and they seem to do quite well. I'm pretty sure that actually if you go that one step further back, and HR people are great at getting this sort of information to actually show what their people think really is the first step. But it's a tough gig if you're in HR and your senior management team don't get it. But I think that so many businesses today really have got to understand that people are really important. And I think most chief execs out there probably know it. And you really do have to rely as a chief exec on your HR function, your PR function, and all the functions around the business to really help you deliver some of this stuff. Because that stuff that I've spoken about there, you know, I might have been part of 10% of it. It's the rest of the business that are doing it and making it happen. So, you know, HR is a key part of really getting the business to understand it. So I guess some metrics and some real deliverables are very helpful.
Awesome, thank you. That's really helpful. Someone asked, Martin mentioned monthly engagement surveys. How are these deployed usually? What system is used? And what is what's an example of a really good response rate?
We do them half yearly and annually. We aim for as close to 90% as we can. Which I think is fairly normal. I think over 80 is considered good, and if you can get over 90, I think it's seen as exceptional. And I think trying to get your staff to understand the biggest problem is, and we've seen ours get better, if you actually do something, so you do your first engagement survey and then go out of your way to show that you said this and we did this, and really go out of your way to show that you're listening, next time you come to do it, it's easier to get the staff to really participate. But we do a lot of you said we did sessions just to really try and get that point home.
Perfect, thank you. Well, with that, we're going to give everyone a couple minutes back in their day. We have just wrapped up the last question, so I just really want to thank Lauren and Martin for both being here and giving us such valuable information and really actionable insights that you can really take back to your company. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope to see you on another upcoming webinar, and have a great rest of your day.